In a recent conversation with Feng Shui master Joey Yap, he mentioned the phenomenon of yin houses, and that really got us curious.
Exactly, because yin houses are actually burial grounds or tombs, and yin house Feng Shui is a study of selecting a proper burial spot based on the elements, and eventually how this can affect your lineage.
And to help us understand it better, one of our reporters went on a trip to Taiwan with Yap to show us how the effects of the land formations of burial places, of politicians and famous figures brought changes for their descendants.
Interesting topic. Take a look at this.
Do you know what yin houses are? In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. And it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of our ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. This was one of the first excursion trips to Taiwan after numerous similar trips to China since 2004. The trip brought along 40 of his students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. The very first destination of the excursion trip was to Taiwan's first president since its independence, Chiang Kai-shek's tomb in Taoyuan County, where Shui Mausoleum lies. Chiang Kai-shek died in 1975 and was entombed here, surrounded by various panoramic landforms like lakes and mountains, which was one of his favorite residences during his lifetime.
We know that the area where Chiang Kai-shek's memorial is actually his old home. He calls it a temporary home because he wanted to move back to China. Now, after he passes on, they made one of those, they selected a location there to be his memorial, to be his tomb. So the area that he selected, that perhaps, out of convenience at that time or because of a temporary basis, is located at a corner where it is not on a mountain, not backed by the mountain energy, as well as it's not embraced by the mountain and water formation. So in such an area, there is no collection of chi, no life force energy. And because of that, in terms of Feng Shui, is considered a negative Feng Shui. And his descendants and subsequently also affected negatively, as you can see, that's the end result.
The second place of visit was the burial place of Chiang Ching-kuo, the son of Chiang Kai-shek, also former president of Taiwan. He died in 1988 and was entombed at the Taoyuan Mausoleum not far from his father. During his lifetime, Chiang Ching-kuo led a simple life, but was unable to sustain the ruling power unlike his father. Find out next, as Joe explains, the reason how the land formations surrounding his burial place led to the loss of his power.
So basically, it's it's located in an extremely disadvantaged area where it is on the edge of almost a cliff, and right behind there was no supporting mountain, so there actually is not on one of those energy lines at all. So there were distant mountains in the far distance, but those are not the mountains that are connected to the location that we're talking about. So basically there's no effect there, there's basically no Feng Shui to talk about.
The third place of visit was the Taishan Public Cemetery, which was the final resting place for Lien Heng, the grandfather of Lien Zhan, the 9th Vice President of Taiwan, who ruled between 1996 and 2000. Lien Heng was a grand historic figure who penned many books such as the Taiwan General History, which is still in use today. His first son was Lien Zhentong, who was an active political member in the Chinese Nationalist Party. The participants learned about the special formation of a cow, where the chi was concentrated on the lip of a cow, which Joey pointed could be the reason behind the long political standing of his descendants.
In Feng Shui practitioners in the old days, They use animal names, like this is a cow-shaped formation, that is a turtle-shaped formation, not because they ask you to put a cow or turtle inside the house. They're referring to the shapes of the mountain and the shapes of the land, the natural land formation. That is what they're referring to. So whenever the term the cow formation is formed, we are referring to an earth star, earth element, because imagine the cow sitting down, and the back of the cow, the head turns downwards, so it looks like an earth star. So basically, to have a nice, beautiful word, they call it the cow. If you want a technical term, it's actually an earth star. Okay, that's what it is.
After visiting these 3 places, we definitely learned one thing or two about how important it is to choose a right place of burial or even a real estate.
So I always think that Feng Shui masters or Feng Shui practitioners are magicians. Any bad place you can fix. The same way I will tell people, are all disease curable? It's not possible. It's also not possible to buy good fortune. That's why in the home or in a house, you cannot just simply put stuff and make it good positive energy, because energy comes from the external environment. You got to be at that place. So hopefully you found a place that has a positive energy, and all you have to do is tap to it. This is why it's so important that location supersedes direction. Location supersedes interior decoration.
Catch more about this interesting excursion trip with Joey Yap next week.
The breakfast show. Now, last week we showed you the first part of Feng Shui consultant Joey Yap's unique excursion to Taiwan.
Exactly. We learned how in-house Feng Shui, a study of selecting a burial spot based on the elements, can affect one's lineage.
And now, Yap showed us several memorial halls of Taiwan's famous politicians, such as Chiang Kai-shek and Chiang Ching-kuo.
You're very good with Chinese names. Great stuff.
Hi.
Today, he's going to take us to various places of worship to study how land formations can contribute to the well-being of a sanctuary.
Interesting stuff. Take a look at this.
In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. At the risk of being morbid in nature, it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of our ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. The trip brought along 40 of his students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. Last week, we brought you to the memorial halls of Taiwan's first president, Chiang Kai-shek, and the president's son, who was also the former president of Taiwan, Chiang Ching-kuo. We learned how the placement of mountains and land formations surrounding the burial place could affect the later generations. This time, we will be showing you 3 places of worship and study how the surrounding natural formations can contribute to the well-being of the sanctuary. The first destination of our 2 days excursion trip was the Tianyuan Palace. It is a common belief among locals that those who meditate at the temple would experience divine intervention. Upon investigation and reaching the higher floors of the pagoda, we saw the temple's massive compound with a special formation. This is known as the majestic-looking double-arrow Tanlang Mountain with multiple layers of embrace.
Tianyuan Temple is one of the primary locations for Taoism education. A lot of people go there to study Taoism and to cultivate the Tao. So they go there and practice, they meditate. Now, it is a very unique place found by some of the Feng Shui experts in the past. They want places that can facilitate their training in spiritual enlightenment. So normally, to do that, not just tapping to a direction is sufficient. They need to find a location with such energy, where such energy exists. So to do that, they found this star called the Tan Lang star. Now, of the 81 types of stars, the double-headed Tan Lang star is one of the most spiritual forms. In ancient China, there's a deity called Wang Daixin. He is known to achieve his immortality also from the same type of features in this place called Gamwa in China. So in Taipei here, we have found that there's also a similar formation, the double-headed Tanlang Mountain, at where this Tianyuan temple is located. And that is the main feature. And the same mountain itself extends its own left and right green dragon and white tiger. Now, when we mention green dragon and white tiger, we're not referring to the figurines inside the house. We're referring to the left and the right of the mountains. And these are all natural formations that is produced by the mountain forms, the land itself, embracing that area. Now, the function of the dragon and tiger embrace is to circulate the qi within the compound. That's where the temple is located.
After the Tianyuan Palace, the entourage headed to Guantu Palace. This temple is known as the oldest Mazu temple in northern Taiwan, worshipping Mazu, the goddess of the sea, as its main deity. Many people make a pilgrimage to this temple on a daily basis.
Normally, in the old days, Feng Shui is always used either A, to locate good graveyards and tombs, or B, to build palaces, or C, to find good locations for spiritual development. And even in spiritual development, there are various types. One type is for education, and the other type is to facilitate commercial development, where people can make a living. Now, this particular temple we're looking at is located at the junction of 3 water sources. Now, whenever we look at junctions of water, we call it a water mouth. Usually that area facilitates commercial development. Major cities like Tokyo, like New York, and all that, where financial districts are, it's usually located where junctions of water converge. And this temple seems to be located at that junction. Now, normally when we talk about Feng Shui, we always like green dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, red phoenix, meaning the 4 surrounding hills that protect that area. Now, happens that this particular temple doesn't have that feature. Why is it so? Why is it still prosperous? It is because the location of that temple itself is tapping towards the opposite direction of the flow of the water. When it's located opposite the flow, means that you are receiving the water directly. Now, the function of a green dragon and white tiger, normally in normal conditions, is when you're looking out to the water, the white tiger and green dragon helps circulate the qi back into the property. And that's why you need a land embrace. We call it the green dragon and white tiger. Where the property is situated reverse of that formation, you're already looking at the incoming water. So you do not need to have a land embrace such as the green dragon and white tiger. So this is the feature of this specific temple, and is strategically located to receive 2 of the 3 sources of water. And that's why this is one of the most popular temples and commercially successful.
Catch more about this interesting excursion trip with Joey Yap next week. To find out more about Joey Yap Mastery Academy, viewers can visit www.masteryacademy.com and www.joeyyap.com.
Well, Welcome back to The Breakfast Show. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been taking a very unique journey to Taiwan with renowned Feng Shui consultant Joey Yap.
Yes, we learned how in-house Feng Shui, a study of selecting a burial spot based on the elements, can affect one's lineage.
Now, Yap showed us several memorial halls of Taiwan's famous politicians and various places of worship.
And this week he uncovers the final resting spot of some significant elders in Taiwan and how these burial grounds may have contributed to the wealth and success of some of the country's most influential people.
In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. At the risk of being morbid in nature, it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. The trip brought along 40 of his students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. In the last two episodes, we brought you to the memorial halls of Taiwan's most influential politicians and places of worship. We learned how the placement of mountains and land formations surrounding the burial place could affect their later generations, and how natural formations can contribute to the well-being of the sanctuary. This time, we will continue our excursion trip to visit other interesting burial places to study the effects of Feng Shui. The first destination of our 3-day excursion trip was the Yangmingshan Public Cemetery. This burial place is known to be a burial place of several notable people in Taiwan. The first tomb that we visited was the tomb of Sun Ki, the elder son of the famous political leader Sun Yat-sen. Sun Ki had 2 sons and 4 daughters. His eldest son ventured into politics but did not achieve much success, while his other son was only an author.
Dr. Sun Yat-sen is one of the most famous figures in modern Chinese history because he basically founded the Republic of China, and obviously Taiwan regard him as one of his founding fathers. Now, he has a son. We know where his burial ground is, and today we found that place is in Yangmingshan. So, we want to study what are the effects of this specific tomb to his descendants. Now, that's the function of studying yin house Feng Shui, and this is very consistent with all the famous tombs that we have seen. Now, looking at this tomb, it has not conformed to all the basic Feng Shui features that we want to see. For example, it is not located on a meridian spot. There is no backing mountain. Now, when we talk about Feng Shui, every layer, every lump of hill behind a tomb represents one generation of good fortune. And this tomb doesn't even have a back hill, doesn't have a supporting hill. So that's the first problem. The second thing we want to see in any tomb or even any house that we look at, we must have an embrace. Now, when we talk about embrace, we're looking at the left and right mountains that holds the land. Now, in modern terms, we call this the green dragon and the white tiger formation. So everyone knows, oh, the left is the green dragon, the right is the white tiger. When we talk about this, we're not talking about what we put around the house. We're talking about the land formation itself that seems to hold the area. Now, in good land, it must always see this feature. But for this, the son of Dr. Sun Yat-sen's tomb, we actually don't see any of these features, so that is already another mistake. So which means, without this tomb protection, there will be strong winds that come in and will hit the tomb itself. Now, in Feng Shui, there's a very, very important principle called the wind disperses the qi, and qi gathers at the boundaries of water. It is from this book called the Burial Book. In Chinese, it's called Seng Feng Zap San Gai Sui Zap Ji. So which means where the place has got strong wind, the qi cannot collect. That means the area is bad Feng Shui. If the area is protected by these hills, then the qi will collect. Then this area has potential for good Feng Shui. So right here at the Dr. Sun Yat-sen's son's tomb, there is no such protection. Therefore, this is a bad Feng Shui feature.
second destination was still within the Yangmingshan Public Cemetery, the tomb of Wang Yongqing's father. Just a brief background about Wang Yongqing: he was the most influential entrepreneur and the wealthiest man in Taiwan about a century ago. He founded the Formosa Plastic Corporation, the largest plastic manufacturer in the world. Let's hear what Joey Yap has to say about the Feng Shui elements surrounding the tomb of Wang Yongqing's father that contributed success and great wealth to the son.
When we come to Taiwan, obviously we would like to go and inspect the famous Feng Shui tombs of the rich and wealthy, rich and famous people, and obviously none other than the great Wang Yongqing. Obviously his empire, he's known to be like the equivalent of Li Ka-shing in Taiwan. So we went to have a look at the Yangmingshan, where this great Feng Shui feature that is in that area, and we want to study how it affected, or as facilitated the growth of such a vast empire. So when we reach the tomb, we see that it's a really modest-looking tomb, but the way it is located, that area taps to the main vein. Now every mountain has a release of vein. Vein is like, when you look at your hands, can you see little veins that cross your arms? Now these veins, they will have points where it's like a meridian point. When you go for acupuncture, the doctor knows exactly where to put the needle to trigger the chi. Those are called meridian points on your body. Now on the land, it's the same thing. The idea of Feng Shui is to locate where these meridian spots are. And obviously there are big meridian points and there are small meridian points, or you can call them power points. So on that hill, the entire Yangmingshan hill, the entire vein crosses to that particular spot, and it opens up its own left and right embrace. So we know that there must be a spot somewhere. So going near, we saw right on the path of the vein, that tomb is already located there. And how great it is depends on how massive the chi can collect in that area and where is it coming from. So the source dragon itself is already from multiple elements, which means that there are multiple sources of income. Plus, looking at that embrace, the internal embrace is the first layer of green dragon and white tiger, forms the first bite hole. Now, although it's sloping downwards, but it forms a bowl formation where the chi is collecting. And then there's a second layer of dragon and tiger outside, which forms the secondary bright hall. And then there's a third one that goes way far, really, really wide, forming the third external bright hall. Now, this type of formation is called the tree harmony, tree divide formation, which means water leaves and converge 3 times before actually leaving the entire site, which means this type of formation forms what we call a 9-curve water. A 9-curve water is rare because when you have 3 times 3 is 9, so the curve will curve 9 times. The water will go 9 times before it leaves, so it collects the chi and retains the chi. Now, in business, we always talk about sustainability. In Feng Shui, we talk about how the water can retain in the site long enough before it just runs away. Therefore, whenever you see, even in a house or in an office, where you see a straight road going out, we call it merciless water because all the chi is escaping. So, how do we know the chi is good? When the water is circulating.
Catch more about this interesting excursion trip with Joey Yap next week. To find out more about Joey Yap Mastery Academy, viewers can visit www.masteryacademy.com and www.joeyyap.com.
Yes, thank you, Joey Yap. For more, you must tune in next week for the extension of Joey Yap's advice on what you can do. And it's Chinese New Year, so you want to pay attention to all that he says.
And hopefully we'll speak to him as soon as the Chinese New Year to find out what the Year of the Dragon holds for all of us.
Ah, yes.
Hello, welcome back to The Breakfast Show. It is a Thursday, the 12th of January, and the time now is 9:15. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been talking a little bit about Feng Shui, and the renowned Feng Shui consultant, Joey Yap, has actually been traveling a lot to Taiwan.
Yes,
right?
and we're learning on how Yin House Feng Shui, a study of selected on burial spots based on certain elements, can actually affect one's lineage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I've always heard Feng Shui for the living, as in, your house, your office, how to reap the benefits today.
Right.
But this one is for reaping the benefits of the afterlife.
Choosing a burial ground, you
for the afterlife,
yeah.
a safer journey.
Yeah, no, it affects your lineage. So you, in effect, by actually
So it affects
choosing
your
good feng shui.
family.
Yeah,
That's very
your
interesting.
generations, thereafter.
Wow.
But yeah, so Joey actually has taken us to several memorial halls in Taiwan of famous politicians. That's what we saw in the previous week. But this week's episode, we take a look in a slightly different aspect on the burial spots. We bring you a residential area that produces very successful people to study how the land formation of the place actually contributes to their abundance of success.
Wow, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, she's interested, so have a look at this.
In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. At the risk of being morbid in nature, it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. The trip brought along 40 of his students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. For the past few weeks, we brought you to the memorial halls of some of the famous Taiwan's politicians and places of worship to study how the surrounding natural formations can contribute to the well-being of the sanctuary. This time round, we will bring you to two places as part of this excursion trip. The first place of our 4 days excursion trip was to Banqiao district, which is located in the city seat of New Taipei City in northern Taiwan. This city is known to be the third highest population density in the country. This is also a home to the famous Banqiao Lin family or Lin Benyuan, a family of business people, politicians and scholars who rose to success during the Qing Dynasty era and are still active in the present day.
This old house that we looked at is actually the house of one of the wealthiest merchants during the time, and it is still, the family is still very wealthy even up to today, and this is the ancestral home. Now, the interesting thing about this is the reason we bring our students to this place is the first thing you see whenever it's a tour spot, you'll find that the local guides will immediately take the tourists to look at the deco. So at the deco, you get to look at the auspicious cranes, the auspicious symbols, the vases, the design, and they will call that Feng Shui. Now, check this out. You're listening to a tour guide who knows nothing about Feng Shui telling you about Feng Shui. What is this telling you? It's actually a tourist spot. The design that has Chinese motifs does not mean that it is Feng Shui. The real Feng Shui has got 4 key components: environment, building, people, and time. These are the 4 key components when we come to assess Feng Shui. We do not care or we do not assess what the house is designed to symbolize. So when we look at the house, we look at things like they have a cage for a peacock and a cage for a monkey, and because the monkey and the peacock symbolizes status and power, that doesn't mean that it's Feng Shui, it's just symbology. When it comes to Feng Shui, remember, we always talk about where is the water formation, natural conditions of the environment. How is the house, the building designed to tap into the natural chi that comes from the environment? It's got nothing to do with what is put inside the house. So one of the reasons is I want to contrast this to the real Feng Shui that we took the students to have a look at. So what happens here is we look at the river. Now, a simple cursory search on Google Map will immediately show you the special configuration of the river around this specific property. If you look at the map right now, you will be able to see that the house is located right at the Jade Belt Formation. Now, how rare is this? Imagine the entire river curve around your house, and all the chi is gathering right to the center where your house is located. Now, that's the first sign. The second thing that's interesting is formation of the river. The river forms a fairy's hand. Now, it's just a term that we use to describe a main trunk of a river with multiple turns and forming several branches, much like a finger, like a hand, and that covers the, it goes right into the area where this house is located. Now, that is the special feature that only this house has. And it's not seen inside, it's seen outside. That's why the location of this house has got good feng shui.
Our second interesting stop was to Bali Longqing Memorial Palace to visit the tomb of Zhang Wenji, the founder and the first chairman of Heisong Corporation, a carbonated beverage manufacturer. This company was listed in 1999 but hit a major breakdown after that. Later, the factory was eventually turned into the Feng shopping mall.
Whether you do Yang house, whether you're buying a house or buying a tomb location, remember this formula. It's called location, location, location. Even if you do real estate, it's still location, location, location. So why so in feng shui? Is because in the area where you're located, you get to see different formations of the mountain. Now, because you share the same vein, is the water element, and water, obviously, you're in the water business, is selling drinks, drinks empire. But one thing that's interesting, from the distance, now the Table Mountain, meaning the mountains in front of you, now form the shape of a big elephant pulling a small elephant. So in the ancient days, we call this Tai Zhong, To Sai Zhong, Doi Doi Chut Zoi Xiong. Meaning, when you see a big elephant pulling a small elephant, this area produces prime ministers. Now, obviously, you can't have so many prime ministers in the country. What happens here is, it means it produces great leaders. And here we have a leader of an empire, an entire business empire. And the interesting thing about why elephant shape is so interesting, because elephant belongs to now earth shape, and earth is a wealth star. So when you see a wealth star, then you see the business people here, due to water element industry, became really successful and prosperous.
Catch more about this interesting excursion trip with Joey Yap next week. To find out more about Joey Yap Mastery Academy, viewers can visit www.joeyyap.com/NTV7.
Well, over the past few weeks, ladies and gentlemen, we've been featuring Feng Shui consultant Joey Yap's unique excursion to Taiwan.
We learned how Yin House Feng Shui, a study of selecting a burial spot based on the elements, can affect one's lineage and even fortune.
So this week, Yap takes us to two places, a temple that's popular with those seeking blessings of wealth. And
I need that.
And a sacred place which houses the renowned Buddhist education center.
Here's a look at his story.
You'll need that as well.
In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. At the risk of being morbid in nature, it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. The trip brought along 40 office students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. In the last 4 episodes, we brought you to the memorial halls of Taiwan's most influential politicians, places of worship, and other burial places. This time, we will continue our excursion trip to visit 2 very sacred places to study the effects of Feng Shui. The first destination of our 5-day excursion trip was to the famous Jinshan Chaishen Temple, or the God of Wealth Temple. Located in the Jinshan district, this temple is a popular place for those who seek for blessings of wealth.
One of the interesting locations here is the famous God of Wealth temple here in Taipei. And the reason I selected this location is because, wealth is one of the interesting things, or reason that people want to practice Feng Shui. So, what other good places can we look for other than the God of Wealth temple, right? Now, obviously, some people come here to pray, but we came here to look at the Feng Shui. Why is this place so effective in terms of ushering wealth? Now we're going to look at the features. First thing, we're going to find whether the location that we are at have the energy or the life force energy or the chi that governs wealth. That's the first thing we want to look for. And the second thing we want to look for is whether that specific area can help the people who come there, will they benefit from that chi? So there are two reasons we look for this. So how do we achieve this? Number one, we look at what are the forms, the mountain formations and the water formations that are present. Now, every formation that is natural is unique. You can never find the same thing anywhere else in the world, okay? Number two, we want to match that form to the formula. We got to use calculations that's already pre-designed, all these formulas in Feng Shui. We take the formula and we match it to the forms, and if the two matches, that means the people in that area can benefit from the chi in that area. So now, when we were at the location of the temple, we discovered that the source dragon, meaning the main mountain formation, was a metal star. And from this metal star, it stretches out one of the arms of the mountain. It stretches out, very long arm, and it turns in at the direction of the snake. Now, when I say the direction of the snake, I meant the compass direction. In the compass, the Feng Shui compass, any ordinary compass, is divided into 24 directions. 12 of these directions has got animal signs. So it comes in from the snake direction. So we call this formation the golden snake coming out from the cave formation. And because there are 4 animal signs that specifically relate to ushering of wealth very quickly. Number 1 is the snake, 2 is the pig, number 3 is the tiger, and then number 4 is the monkey. These 4 form an axis cross in the compass. It's opposite each other. And so happened that the location of this specific temple is sitting on the snake direction and facing to the pig direction, which has specific mountains, natural energy, locking in the chi from both sides. So with this specific effect, it ushers in wealth chi very, 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 very quickly.
The second destination was to the mountain called the Faku Mountain. This is the place where the Dharma Drum Mountain World Center is located at. Designed solely in teachings of Buddhism, this Buddhist education center has produced massive complex of monasteries and education centers.
We went to this place called the Dharma Drum Center of Buddhist Studies. Now, in this area here, it's one of the most popular education centers for Buddhist philosophy and education. Obviously, we went there for Feng Shui reasons, so we want to study the Feng Shui. Now, whenever we study the Feng Shui, we always look at the environment. One of the interesting things that when we brought students here is they get to see that Feng Shui has nothing to do with the interior design, because this is a Zen place. And as Zen means, everything is clean and simple. There are no decorations, no little trinkets hanging anywhere. It's just landform Feng Shui, and that's really the real Feng Shui that we always talk about. Now, what is interesting here is the water formation from the water mountain. Now, water relates to arts. Behind the water was a wood star. Okay, it's actually located on the left side of the formation. The left side of the formation is actually a wood star. We call it a greedy wolf star. Now, the name sounds a little bit funny. How can you call it greedy wolf? But that's the name of a star. It's actually called a wood star. Water plus wood, these two stars adding together always produce scholars, artistic people, talented and intelligent people. Now remember, when it comes to Feng Shui, we always have two things. Forms, what we see, formulas, what we calculate. Whenever a Feng Shui practitioner takes out a compass, he or she is using the formula. Whenever he is looking at the environment, the mountains and water, he is looking at the forms. So forms plus formula together, if it matches, this area has the type of chi that can affect and help the people. So when we take out the measurement, we find that the nobleman star, which is wood element, the water star adding together, exits out at the dragon direction. With the education, with the scholarly pursuits, with all the research that's going on around this place, the people who graduate from the center goes out to save lives, meaning through education, through enlightenment, through their work.
Catch more about this interesting excursion trip with Joey Yap next week. To find out more about Joey Yap Mastery Academy, viewers can visit www.joeyyap.com/NTV7.
Joanne de Rosario, I think you need to go for a visit to the Temple of Wealth.
I need the chi.
I think you need the chi as well, with the dragon coming up from the snake direction, the golden snake coming up from the dragon cave.
You've lost me at snake.
I lost me at dragon as well. But, well, I mean, I'm sure there are many of you guys who found that very, very beneficial. Maybe a trip to Taiwan would further strengthen your belief in Feng Shui.
Personally, I do enjoy listening to Joey Yap speak
Exactly.
about Feng Shui because he makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. He does make sense, especially when we talk about calculations and formulas. But, well, as the formulas are still boggling around in our brains, it's time for us to take another quick breather. But, of course, still to come.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Show. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been taking a virtual trip with Feng Shui consultant Joey Yap on a unique excursion to Taiwan to discover Yin House Feng Shui.
Among other things, it is a study of selecting a burial spot based on the elements and how this can affect one's lineage and even fortune.
Now, in this last excursion, Yap uncovers a few more interesting burial spots and how they could contribute to the wealth and success of people who visit them.
He also shows us how one restaurant became a popular dining spot for both locals and tourists alike, all because of a strategic Feng Shui location.
Let's have a look.
In Feng Shui, yin houses represent tombs and burial places. At the risk of being morbid in nature, it is believed to be important to study the landform formations of ancestral yin houses, as it may affect the future generations. Recently, Joey Yap, renowned Feng Shui consultant, had an excursion trip to Taiwan. The trip brought along 40 of his students from around the world to study the effects of the land formations of burial places of politicians and famous figures towards their descendants. In the past few episodes, we brought you to the memorial halls of Taiwan's most influential politicians and places of worship. We learned how the placement of mountains and land formations surrounding the burial place could affect their later generations and how natural formations can contribute to the well-being of the sanctuary. In this last episode, we will continue our excursion trip to visit other interesting places. The first destination of our last day excursion trip was to the temple of the 18 deities. Some people call it the Dog Temple due to the fascinating legend behind it. During the Qing dynasty, 17 people and a dog journeyed on a ship for a pilgrimage. The ship capsized, killing all on board except the dog. Despite being saved by nearby fishermen, the dog drowned itself and the act was said to be in honor of its master. The fishermen buried the dead, including the dog, hence the 18 deities name in a mass grave. The grave can be seen at the temple's basement today.
Now, the Sapat Wong Kong basically can be translated to the 18 kings. It's a very special story that talks about loyalty, talks about friendship, talks about the support each other lends to one another. Now the interesting thing is not the story. The interesting thing about this specific temple that we look at is it is actually visited by a lot of people at night, and especially by those people who work in the night industry. Some of them work in, they could be money lenders. Some of them are loan sharks. Some of them are, prostitutes. Now, and a lot of people seem to get very good results as a result of coming here, for their prayers. Now, obviously, as I need to emphasize once again, that Feng Shui has nothing to do with the religion. It's got everything to do with the location where people go to. So when we studied the location of this really tiny little temple here, we found that it's actually located inside a mountain. Now, that mountain has a shape. The mountain itself is what we call a sunken head heavenly wealth star. Now, these kind of mountain formations are quite rare. Such a mountain usually have the effects of helping and ushering what we call indirect wealth. That means money you don't make through direct efforts. Some of these may include, windfall gains. Some of this may include, money that you unexpectedly gain. So with a formation like this, and you have a temple inside, obviously it has that benefit.
Our last stop was an award-winning restaurant chain specializing in xiao long bao, or small steam buns. Named as Din Tai Fung, this outlet is the original flagship restaurant, which is located on a busy street of Sydney Road. Today, the business has expanded its reach to many branches worldwide.
So we want to check out the Feng Shui of this commercially successful business. Now, in Feng Shui, there are two features. Either A, we look at mountains, or B, we look at water. Better we find both. But usually in a city where mountains are not so visible, the main observation is always the water. So now, where is water in the city? The roads are called virtual water when it comes to Feng Shui. And for this specific location that we see, the main building of Din Tai Fung, the first one, which is where we are, is actually located at a sort of a configuration or convergence of various water sources. In fact, there were 5 different routes that could lead to a water converging right in front of that building. So this is like 5 water converging on the Bright Hall formation, we call that. 5 water converging, and this is the building that actually receives the Qi. So by forms, it already qualified for that. Now, but remember, Feng Shui has got 2 parts. One is the forms, one is the formula. So in order to qualify, we got to use a specific formula to calculate if this water is coming in from the correct direction. So because the building faces north, it sits on the south. So a south-sitting building is called a Li Gua property. So on a Li Gua property, based on the direction that we measured for all the roads that are incoming in, it's actually called coming in from the huge door star water. Huge door star water is one of the most powerful wealth formation of water formulas that we can find. And so happen that these roads, designed by government, not by this owner, naturally falls into that condition. That's why this company, this business is doing well even until today.
To find out more about this interesting excursion trip and Julia Yap Mastery Academy, viewers can visit www.juliayap.com/NTV7.